Good morning, Chicago Cubs fans. We are back with another edition of Cubs Daily. My name is Steven Ryan. We're going to talk about the game yesterday. It was a really good game until later on when the Cubs bullpen just gave it all away in the end. We're going to talk about the state of the pitching market for the upcoming trade deadline. We're going to show an official list of sellers. Now, this is my own caveated list, so I'll break that down and more, and then we'll preview Game 2 tonight in Minnesota. But before we get into all that, I just want to give a big shout out to everybody who's liked the videos, checked me out, gave me a comment, gave me the support, gave me your thoughts. I love hearing every single one about it. If you're enjoying the content, smash the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We are officially on the road to 1K. So, the Cubs do lose yesterday 8-1 in an absolute blowout. The score is not indicative of the game, in my opinion, though, because Shota did give up those 2 runs in the first inning, but then he bounced back really nicely for another quality start, his 3rd quality start of the season so far. Unfortunately, the 8th inning was all on Mr. Porter Hodge, who was kind of working his way back into the swing of things here. He was not able to keep that game intact for this Cubs team, but some days it's just not going to be your day, and I was kind of able to tell that with how the offense was playing last night. Multiple opportunities with runners in scoring position to drive in runs, and they just couldn't execute, which, again, it's going to happen on a day-to-day basis here, especially in Major League Baseball. But in the grand scheme total of things, I'm not too concerned. I mean, in the 8th inning yesterday, it was Ian Happ walk, Ian Happ single, then Kyle Tucker walked, and then Seiya struck out on 3 pitches. PCA went swinging and missing, and then Bush lined out sharply to the right fielder. And I was like, you know what? Sometimes it's just not your night. It was pretty much a microcosm of that game. And then obviously the Twins poured on 6 more in the 8th, and that one was just put to bed pretty quickly. So I'm not too concerned on this front, ladies and gentlemen. I don't like getting blown out. I don't like losses, but that's the beautiful thing about baseball is we're going to bounce back today for another game. And I think the Cubs are going to take care of business because this team has done a fantastic job of responding all season long. But we'll preview Game 2 here at the end of the video. Let's talk about the state of the pitchers market here in the major leagues. It's in a very interesting place, right? I think the Cubs need 2 starting pitchers and another high-leverage arm. I'm not sure if we're going to acquire all 3 of those before the deadline. Now, when I say 2 starting pitchers, I don't mean just 2 starting pitchers. There's 2 style of starting pitchers I think we need. We need another 3, 4, 5 kind of starter in the sense of where they go in the rotation. They eat innings. They do a solid job for us. The Cubs are still pining for that number 1 ace material type of player to, lead this staff. I know Shota has been great. Shota has been solid all year. I don't know what he's like in the postseason, though. Obviously, we're missing Justin Steele for the rest of the year. I still personally want a number 1 front of the staff ace that I know every 5th day is getting the ball, and I'm not worried how he's going to pitch. Not that I'm necessarily worried about Shota, but, he's coming off an injury. He's kind of grooving back into things, so the state of the actual starting pitcher market is pretty bleak on that front. We're going to get to the teams that are pretty much going to officially be sellers here in a moment. But, I was also listening to the radio this morning on my way back from the gym. And, they're talking about the White Sox GM. He's Chris Getz. He said that the trade market is kind of put on a halt right now because the MLB draft is next week. And all the front offices are kind of putting their resources in together and getting ready for that draft. Now, the MLB draft works a lot differently than the MLB or the NFL and the NBA draft. When a guy gets drafted in, MLB, we don't necessarily see them for 2 to 3 years. Now, that is changing. There are definitely some exceptions to that rule. I know Paul Skeens came up really quickly. I know there's a couple guys who came up really quickly for their playoff runs. I understand that. But generally speaking, when you are drafted, there is a progression system you go through as a minor leaguer on your way to the major league. So drafting a player isn't necessarily going to help impact your team right away. So, this is the sense where the Cubs might need to make a move, and I honestly do think they need to make a move. I know we don't want to give up our prospects, blah, 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 but we need to start thinking about this in terms of how can we set this team up for success, not only this year, but next year and the year after, because we need to show Kyle Tucker that we're here to win now and not just this year. if we want any chance to re-sign him. But the pitcher market, kind of bleak. In my opinion, there is no true number one ace. There are some that have potential. Like Zach Gallen. He is a potential number one ace. Unfortunately, he would be more of a rental, and I'm not interested in giving up a lot of top prospects to rent him. I do love Sandy Alcantara, former Cy Young Award winner. I think he's got a lot of great stuff. He's a risk, though. He's not necessarily guaranteed locked down. I mean, in my opinion, there's only like 2 or 3 guys that are guaranteed locked down, and they're both not available. So, for understandable reason, they shouldn't be available. But that's kind of the state of the pitchers market. Let's talk about the teams that are officially kind of be listed on the sellers side for me, in my opinion. Now, some of these teams have come out and said, hey, we're sellers at the deadline, okay? Others might not have. In my opinion, these guys are all sellers, okay? Every single team that I've listed is at least 10 games or more out of the last wild card spot, okay? Not the division, the wild card spot. So let's take a look at this graphic I created. Here are the teams, in my opinion, that are selling, okay? There's only 5 of them. It's not a very, very long list. It's the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Colorado Rockies, the Chicago White Sox, the Athletics, and the Washington Nationals, okay? Now, the Pirates have Mitch Keller, who's been a big rumor for the Cubs. I just find it very hard to believe that, dealing with the Pirates can't be an easy task. Have we made deals with them before? Absolutely. That doesn't mean it can't happen again. I just don't think that we're going to be able to, finesse them or get Mitch Keller out of a deal without giving up something. They're an in-division rival. I just can't imagine they're going to want to send him our way, which kind of amplifies even more because more recently the Paul Skeens rumors have been popping up. And again, he's not going anywhere this year. He's going to be in Pittsburgh for the remainder of the season. Now, in a few years, there's going to be a conversation. But either way, I just don't see, Mitch Keller coming over to the Cubs for, a cheap penny. And I'm not sure if that's going to be necessarily something that we do want. The Rockies are obviously the worst team in baseball record-wise. They don't really have anything I am interested in. I wouldn't want to trade for any of these items anyways, so kind of pass on them. Taking a look back at that graphic, the White Sox, they do have some solid pitchers. They picked up Adrian Hauser. Depending on his price, I would be interested, but not necessarily making a phone call to go over there and make a pickup from them either. And then obviously you have the Athletics, who, they have that closer I would love, Mason Miller. Not sure if he's available. He's on a very team-friendly deal. And they have Luis Severino, who's really good. He could be a really good 2 or 3 pitcher when he's really rolling. But, again, is he number one stuff material? Not necessarily. And so I really want to give up too much for him. And then the last one is a very interesting one. And I want to talk about it a little bit. Ken Rosenthal came on the radio the other day, or his show, and he talked about this, and the percentage to me seems very low. But he pitched out Mackenzie Gore of the Washington Nationals. He was a big key cog in that deal for Juan Soto back in the day. But I don't think Mackenzie Gore is available. I don't think the Nationals, like Ken Rosenthal said, want to admit to themselves that they need that. But Ken Rosenthal said that the Nationals do not have the minor league system to support the big 3 of Gore, C.J. Abrams, and James Wood. So will they be interested in trading Mackenzie Gore because he's going to return quite a haul? That is the question. Mackenzie Gore has the potential to be front of the line stuff. I will say that. He is an absolute stud. So is he a guy the Cubs should be interested in? Yes. Is he a guy the Cubs should be on the phone making a call about? Yes. Is it a deal that is going to happen? Very, very unlikely. I can't see it. I can't fathom it. But I like the idea of Mackenzie Gore. No doubt about it. Now, let's preview the Game 2 of the series tonight, set in Minnesota. Our man, Cade Horton, is back on the bump after a stellar performance against the Guardians, hoping to recreate that magic in Minnesota tonight. The Twins are pitching some guy named Fest. He has an above 5 ERA. This is an excellent opportunity for the Cubs to get right in this matchup and hopefully take care of business and get this series even so that tomorrow we can hopefully take the series and head to New York on a happy note. I imagine the Cubs offense is going to explode tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I can't see it that, we're going to just sit there and not score again. And again, the opportunities were there last night. I imagine there's going to be even more opportunities tonight in this game. So keep your eyes peeled. It's going to be at 6:40 Central. Cade Horton on the bump. It's always fun to watch him. Yeah, sometimes it's not good. Sometimes it's really, really good. It's about watching the growth with this young man. So excited for tonight's game. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. I will be back tomorrow with another one.